Now, we've been told a lot, haven't we, that diabetes is turning into a very big problem. And now the government and NHS England are being accused of being too slow to take action about it. Over the past 2 decades, the number of adults diagnosed with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes in England has doubled to nearly 3.2 million people. It's estimated that's costing the NHS £5.5 billion a year. As Catherine Jones reports now, it's not just the health professionals who are being told to do more about it.
Checking blood sugar is a familiar routine for Liz. A type 1 diabetic for 50 years. It was only a decade ago she got a week of intensive training in how to manage her condition.
Oh dear, that's a bit high.
A turning point that made her realise how vital it is to get specialist support.
There should be a GP in every practice and a nurse in every practice who is well trained in diabetes. I'm terribly lucky to have my annual training updates from the hospital I attend, but I just cry when I see what some people get or don't get. It's just not fair.
Today, the Commons Public Accounts Committee has warned the cost of diabetes will continue to rise because there's poor support for patients in many parts of England. Also, a shortage of the specialist staff the NHS needs to treat them. Plus, not enough prevention work is being done to stop people becoming diabetic.
We know what works in preventing and treating diabetes. We want the Department of Health and NHS England to make sure that that's happening everywhere, whether it's hospital or at primary care level. We want to make sure that people are getting help to prevent them developing diabetes in the first place. That's a win for the individual, a win for society, and a win for the taxpayer.
The report also reveals very few new patients are taking up the education offered to them. Liz believes GPs have a responsibility to persuade someone newly diagnosed that it's important.
If GPs had better motivational skills to motivate people to want to go and learn, it would transform their lives. And it's a false economy not to spend time doing that, because if people don't go on the courses, they're not going to know how to look after themselves well.
Nowadays, many diabetics get that support from each other through online forums and websites.
And we all learn from it.
But if the NHS's diabetes services were more comprehensive, patients wouldn't need to rely on this quite so much. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
I'm joined now in the studio by Robin Hewings from Diabetes UK. Robin, we've mentioned many times on this programme, and you put it out there a lot, that it's such a big problem facing the country, costing £5.5 billion for NHS England at least. That's not to mention Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Yet it's a postcode lottery. It must be massively frustrating for you.
It is frustrating. We have been talking about these issues for some time, and we think it's only really just recently that they're starting to be addressed. The MPs are absolutely right to say that, in a sense, we've been too late in coming to this issue. But what we need to do is to make up for lost time and use what we know works in diabetes to make it to make sure that people with diabetes have the support they need to be able to manage what is a very difficult condition to keep on top of.
There are 3 parties involved here. There's us, there's the doctors and part of the NHS, and there's government. Let's go through it. Are the government doing enough? Are they spending enough?
I think, in a sense, the problem is that they're spending too much on the wrong things, because the thing about diabetes is that if you spend the money up front and so that people can manage their condition well, then you can live a pretty healthy, long life with any form of diabetes. The problem is that the complications, heart attacks, stroke, blindness, amputation, they're devastating to the individual, but really expensive for the NHS as well.
And so prevention could save money. What about the NHS? What about doctors? We heard there that surgery should have, according to that lady, should have doctors and nurses who are well versed in the symptoms of diabetes, but they're not. Are they doing enough?
I think that she's absolutely right that diabetes specialists can really understand the condition and really help people get exactly the right advice, and that can be really motivating to people. And it's true to say that as the number of people with diabetes has gone up, the specialist staff definitely hasn't. The MPs have also said something else which is very important, which is that people with diabetes are seen by lots of healthcare professionals, and there needs to be a big push on making sure that everyone in the NHS knows a lot about diabetes, because 1 in 7 people in hospital have diabetes.
But just briefly, perhaps it's the responsibility too of those people who have it to learn about it a bit more, learn how to manage it and perhaps reverse it when it's type 2.
I think that personal responsibility is a big part of diabetes, and my sense is that people with diabetes are often working really, really hard to keep on top of their condition, and what they need to do can be tough stuff. So if you have type 2, you may be trying to lose weight or exercise more, and you'll also be having to take drugs or insulin on a regular basis, which is tough. And with type 1, you're having to do nothing to do with lifestyle, but you're having to do very tough things to do with balancing your insulin to your carbohydrates. And I think that on the whole, I think that people with diabetes are fulfilling their part of the bargain.
They could do with more of a
It's the
helping
health
hand.
service and the government that need to give them more help.
OK, Robin, many thanks.
Thank you.